My wife told the family court judge, "I need protection from your controlling behavior," after emptying our $290,000 joint savings account during what I believed was her therapeutic spa weekend. My name is Lawrence Mitchell, 44 years old, systems architect with 16 years at Microsoft, specializing in cloud infrastructure and enterprise security solutions. I had built our financial foundation through careful investment planning and technology stock options, maintaining detailed financial records from our relationship's beginning. When Sarah Brennan presented herself to Judge Patricia Hartley with practiced vulnerability, claiming systematic emotional abuse and financial control, I simply said, "I respect the court's decision and will comply fully with all orders." What Sarah didn't realize was that my methodical approach to documentation and financial planning had created comprehensive records of every aspect of our relationship, including evidence that would expose her year-long deception and strategic asset theft. The restraining order hearing took place on a Monday morning in King County Family Court, 3 days after I had returned from what I thought was a routine business trip to find our savings account completely emptied and legal papers taped to our front door. "Your Honor, my husband has systematically controlled every aspect of our financial life," Sarah testified, dabbing her eyes with tissues while her attorney, Rebecca Torres, nodded supportively. "He monitors every purchase I make, questions every expense, and has created an environment of financial intimidation that has left me afraid to make independent decisions about money." I sat quietly with my temporary legal counsel, watching Sarah deliver what appeared to be a well-rehearsed performance about financial abuse and controlling behavior. "Lawrence requires detailed documentation of every dollar I spend," Sarah continued. "He has spreadsheets tracking my activities, demands receipts for all purchases, and has made me feel like a prisoner in my own home." Judge Hartley listened attentively to Sarah's testimony while reviewing the emergency petition that claimed I had been systematically isolating her from friends and family while maintaining absolute control over our financial resources. "Mr. Mitchell, how do you respond to these allegations?" Judge Hartley asked when Sarah's attorney concluded their presentation. "Your Honor, I maintain financial records for tax and investment purposes, but I have never restricted my wife's access to our accounts or controlled her spending decisions," I replied calmly. "I would welcome a comprehensive review of our financial records, which will show that Sarah has had equal access to all accounts and has made independent financial decisions throughout our marriage." But Sarah's attorney immediately objected to any detailed financial review, claiming that such documentation would further traumatize her client and delay necessary protective measures. "Your Honor, requiring the victim to participate in detailed financial analysis would subject her to additional controlling behavior," Attorney Torres argued. "The restraining order is necessary to prevent further financial intimidation while we prepare for divorce proceedings." Judge Hartley granted the temporary restraining order, requiring me to move out of our shared residence and maintain no contact with Sarah while the court processed her petition for permanent protection. "Mr. Mitchell, you are ordered to vacate the marital residence within 24 hours and maintain a distance of at least 500 feet from your wife pending further hearings," Judge Hartley stated. I gathered my personal belongings and essential documents that evening, moving into a downtown Seattle hotel while processing the systematic nature of Sarah's deception. The timing was particularly calculated. Sarah had waited until I was traveling for a Microsoft infrastructure conference, giving her 3 days to execute whatever plan she had been developing. I called my longtime friend and attorney, Marcus Caldwell, who specialized in entertainment law, but had extensive experience with complex contract negotiations and asset protection strategies. "Lawrence, this sounds like a coordinated strategy designed to maximize Sarah's position in divorce proceedings," Marcus observed during our emergency consultation. "The restraining order establishes a legal narrative of controlling behavior while preventing you from accessing shared assets or monitoring her financial activities. Marcus recommended that I document everything while maintaining strict compliance with the restraining order to avoid giving Sarah's legal team any ammunition for their abuse allegations. Your best strategy is perfect compliance with court orders while systematically building evidence that contradicts Sarah's claims about financial control and abuse," Marcus advised. I spent my first week in temporary housing organizing the comprehensive financial records I had maintained throughout our 8-year marriage. Every investment decision, every major purchase, and every financial planning discussion had been documented in detailed spreadsheets and correspondence files that painted a clear picture of our collaborative financial management. Sarah had participated in all major financial decisions, had co-signed on investment accounts, and had never expressed concerns about financial control or intimidation during any of our documented planning sessions. But more importantly, I began discovering evidence that Sarah's spa weekend story was completely fabricated, and that she had been planning this divorce strategy for over a year. The hotel charges on our joint credit card showed that Sarah had been staying at a downtown Seattle apartment, rather than any spa facility, and the apartment lease agreement was dated 6 months earlier. Sarah had been systematically preparing for divorce while maintaining the pretense of a committed marriage, using my business travel schedule to execute financial theft and establish legal narratives that would maximize her settlement. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted was systematically planning your destruction while presenting themselves as a victim of your success? Professional documentation habits sometimes become essential protection against elaborate deception and strategic betrayal. My systematic review of financial records and digital communications during the restraining order period revealed that Sarah's divorce strategy had been planned and executed with sophisticated legal guidance spanning over 18 months. Her transformation from committed spouse to abuse victim was entirely fabricated, supported by carefully constructed evidence and social media narratives designed to establish grounds for maximum asset recovery. The Microsoft Benefits portal showed that Sarah had been researching our stock option values, retirement account balances, and healthcare coverage details since March of the previous year, indicating long-term preparation rather than spontaneous relationship breakdown. Sarah accessed detailed financial information through my employee portal on 47 separate occasions over 18 months, I documented in my evidence compilation. Her research focused specifically on asset valuation and transfer procedures rather than routine account management. The credit card statements I obtained through our joint account management system revealed that Sarah had been meeting with multiple divorce attorneys throughout the previous year, with charges to law firms specializing in high-asset divorce and domestic abuse cases. Law office consultations totaling $8,400 over 14 months show systematic legal preparation, I noted. Sarah was interviewing attorneys and developing strategy while maintaining normal marital behavior. Most damaging to Sarah's abuse allegations were the social media posts and text message records that contradicted her claims about isolation and financial control. Sarah's Instagram account showed regular dining, shopping, and travel activities throughout our marriage, with posts celebrating luxury purchases and expressing gratitude for our financial security. Sarah posted 340 social media updates over 2 years, showing expensive purchases, restaurant meals, and recreational activities, I compiled. Her posts consistently expressed appreciation for our lifestyle and financial freedom. Text message records with her friends and family members revealed no concerns about financial control or abusive behavior until immediately before filing the restraining order. Sarah's communications with her sister Emma show normal marital complaints about work schedules and household responsibilities, but no mentions of financial abuse or controlling behavior until 2 weeks before the restraining order filing. But the most significant discovery was Sarah's secret apartment lease, which she had signed 4 months before, claiming she needed emergency protection from my alleged controlling behavior. The downtown Seattle apartment rental agreement showed $2,800 monthly payments beginning 6 months earlier, suggesting Sarah had been planning her exit strategy while continuing to share our residence and financial accounts. Sarah's apartment lease predates her abuse allegations by 4 months, I documented. She was planning independent living arrangements while maintaining the facade of a committed marriage. My friend Marcus Caldwell reviewed my evidence compilation and immediately recognized the sophisticated nature of Sarah's legal strategy. Lawrence, Sarah's attorney, has orchestrated a comprehensive asset seizure plan using domestic abuse allegations as legal justification, Marcus explained. The restraining order prevents you from protecting joint assets, while she liquidates accounts during your forced absence. But Marcus also identified a critical oversight in Sarah's legal preparation that would ultimately destroy her entire strategy. Sarah's attorney apparently never reviewed the prenuptial agreement you signed before marriage, Marcus noted. The document contains specific provisions that were designed exactly for situations like this. The prenuptial agreement we had signed 8 years earlier had been drafted by Microsoft's corporate legal team, using sophisticated asset protection language that I had insisted upon despite Sarah's initial resistance. The prenup includes specific fraud protection clauses and requires full asset restoration before any settlement negotiations can begin, Marcus explained. Sarah's unauthorized account access and asset removal violate multiple provisions that trigger automatic penalty clauses. The agreement also contained detailed documentation requirements and dispute resolution procedures that Sarah's legal team had apparently ignored during their strategic planning. Your prenup specifically addresses attempted asset concealment and includes criminal referral provisions for unauthorized account access, Marcus observed. Sarah and her attorney may have committed multiple violations that expose them to criminal liability, but the most powerful aspect of the prenuptial agreement was its requirement that any spouse claiming abuse must first submit to comprehensive financial auditing to prevent false allegations from being used for asset manipulation. The agreement requires independent financial forensic review before domestic abuse claims can be considered in divorce proceedings, Marcus explained. Sarah's refusal to participate in such auditing would invalidate her abuse allegations under the contract terms. I began preparing comprehensive documentation packages that would demonstrate Sarah's systematic deception while proving that her abuse allegations were fabricated for financial advantage. The evidence included financial records showing Sarah's equal access to all accounts, social media posts contradicting abuse claims, attorney consultation charges proving premeditation, and apartment lease agreements proving her exit strategy had been planned months in advance. Sarah's own digital footprint contradicts every aspect of her restraining order testimony, I noted in my evidence summary. Her activities demonstrate strategic planning rather than emergency response to abuse. Marcus recommended that we request immediate court review of the prenuptial agreement terms and demand financial auditing before any further restraining order proceedings. Sarah's asset seizure violates your prenup's fraud protection clauses, Marcus stated. We can demand immediate asset restoration and potentially criminal investigation of her unauthorized account access. The systematic documentation I had maintained throughout our marriage was providing comprehensive evidence that would expose Sarah's fabricated abuse allegations while protecting the financial assets she had attempted to steal. Professional habits of thorough record-keeping and legal preparation were proving essential for defending against sophisticated manipulation designed to exploit legal protections intended for genuine abuse victims. Have you ever maintained documentation habits that became crucial for exposing elaborate deception designed to exploit your professional success? Sometimes systematic record-keeping provides the only protection against strategic betrayal disguised as victimization. The comprehensive legal strategy that Marcus Caldwell developed during our second week of consultation focused on systematically dismantling Sarah's abuse narrative while enforcing the prenuptial agreement's fraud protection provisions that her attorney had apparently never reviewed. The evidence I had compiled revealed not just spontaneous asset theft, but a sophisticated conspiracy designed to exploit domestic abuse legal protections for financial gain. Lawrence, Sarah's legal team made a fatal error by never analyzing your prenuptial agreement before implementing their asset seizure strategy, Marcus explained during our strategic planning session. The document contains specific provisions that were drafted to prevent exactly the kind of manipulation Sarah is attempting. The prenuptial agreement included clauses requiring comprehensive financial disclosure before any abuse allegations could be considered in divorce proceedings, automatic asset restoration for unauthorized transfers, and criminal referral provisions for systematic deception during marriage dissolution. Your prenup essentially creates a legal framework that prevents false abuse allegations from being used to circumvent property protection agreements, Marcus noted. Sarah's strategy violates multiple contract provisions that trigger automatic penalties and potential criminal liability. But the most powerful aspect of our legal position was the comprehensive documentation that contradicted every element of Sarah's restraining order testimony. The financial records I had maintained showed that Sarah had equal access to all accounts, participated in all major financial decisions, and had never expressed concerns about financial control during our 8-year marriage. Sarah co-signed on every investment account, participated in annual financial planning meetings, and regularly made independent purchases without consultation or approval, I documented. Her claims about financial control are contradicted by 8 years of collaborative financial management. The social media evidence was particularly damaging to Sarah's abuse allegations. Her Instagram and Facebook posts consistently celebrated our lifestyle, expressed gratitude for financial security, and showed no signs of isolation or intimidation. Sarah posted 127 photos of expensive purchases over 2 years, thanking me publicly for supporting her shopping and recreation activities, I compiled. Her social media presence contradicts claims about financial intimidation or controlling behavior. Text message records with her friends and family members revealed no discussions of abuse, financial control, or relationship problems until immediately before filing the restraining order. Sarah's sister Emma, who she claims I isolated her from, received regular text messages about normal marital activities with no mentions of abuse or control, I documented. The communication records show normal family relationships without any signs of isolation. Marcus had also discovered that Sarah's attorney, Rebecca Torres, specialized in high-asset divorce cases involving domestic abuse allegations, suggesting a pattern of using abuse claims for financial advantage. Torres has handled 18 similar cases over 5 years, with unusually high success rates in securing asset transfers through emergency protective orders, Marcus researched. Her practice model appears to involve systematic use of abuse allegations for financial manipulation, but Torres had apparently never encountered a case where the targeted spouse had maintained comprehensive documentation and sophisticated legal preparation through prenuptial agreements. Torres's strategy assumes that accused spouses will be unprepared and overwhelmed by abuse allegations, Marcus observed. Your systematic documentation and prenup provisions create a completely different legal landscape. The motion to dismiss the restraining order that Marcus prepared included comprehensive evidence packages that would expose Sarah's deception while demonstrating her violations of the prenuptial agreement's fraud protection clauses. We're requesting immediate court review of the prenuptial agreement, comprehensive financial auditing of Sarah's abuse claims, and criminal investigation of her unauthorized asset transfers, Marcus explained. The legal brief included time-stamped evidence of Sarah's year-long divorce preparation, financial records contradicting abuse allegations, and documentation of her attorney's apparent failure to review contractual obligations before implementing asset seizure strategies. Sarah's own activities prove systematic deception designed to exploit legal protections intended for genuine abuse victims, our brief stated. Her unauthorized asset transfers violate explicit fraud protection clauses in the prenuptial agreement that require automatic restoration plus penalties. But the most compelling aspect of our legal strategy was demanding that Sarah submit to the comprehensive financial auditing required by the prenuptial agreement before any abuse allegations could be considered valid. The prenup requires independent forensic accounting of any spouse claiming financial abuse, Marcus explained. Sarah's refusal to participate in such auditing would automatically invalidate her abuse allegations under the contract terms. The auditing provisions were designed to prevent exactly the kind of false allegations that Sarah was making, requiring detailed examination of financial records, communication patterns, and behavioral evidence before abuse claims could be legally recognized. Sarah agreed to these auditing requirements when she signed the prenup, Marcus noted. Her current refusal to comply with comprehensive financial review violates her contractual obligations and undermines her abuse allegations. The court hearing scheduled for the following week would determine whether Sarah's restraining order could survive the comprehensive evidence that contradicted her allegations while violating explicit prenuptial agreement provisions. Sarah's legal team apparently assumed that abuse allegations would prevent detailed examination of her claims, Marcus observed. Your documentation and prenup provisions create legal requirements that make such examination mandatory. The systematic approach to evidence compilation and legal preparation was transforming what appeared to be successful financial manipulation into comprehensive exposure of Sarah's deception and potential criminal liability. Professional documentation habits and strategic legal thinking provide protection against manipulation that most people never anticipate needing, I reflected during our preparation sessions. Sarah's attempt to exploit legal protections designed for genuine abuse victims was about to encounter systematic evidence and sophisticated legal preparation that would expose every aspect of her fabricated allegations. Have you ever discovered that thorough legal preparation and systematic documentation could completely reverse someone's attempt to exploit your success through false victimization? Sometimes professional habits of careful planning become essential protection against elaborate manipulation designed to steal your life's work. The court hearing that would determine the fate of Sarah's restraining order took place 3 weeks after her initial petition, giving Marcus Caldwell sufficient time to prepare comprehensive evidence packages that systematically dismantled every aspect of her abuse allegations while exposing the sophisticated deception underlying her asset seizure strategy. Judge Patricia Hartley reviewed the motion to dismiss along with the extensive documentation that contradicted Sarah's original testimony about financial control and systematic abuse. Mr. Mitchell's attorney has presented evidence that appears to contradict the allegations made in the original restraining order petition, Judge Hartley observed. The court will review this evidence carefully before making any determinations about continued protective measures. Sarah's attorney, Rebecca Torres, immediately objected to the detailed examination of financial records and communication patterns that Marcus had compiled. Your Honor, requiring the victim to defend her abuse allegations through detailed financial analysis subjects her to additional controlling behavior, Torres argued. The extensive documentation presented by opposing counsel represents exactly the kind of intimidating record-keeping that created the abusive environment. But Marcus had anticipated this response and prepared legal arguments that transformed Sarah's objections into evidence supporting our position. Your Honor, the defendant signed a prenuptial agreement that explicitly requires comprehensive financial auditing before any abuse allegations can be considered in divorce proceedings, Marcus stated. Her refusal to comply with this auditing requirement violates her contractual obligations and undermines the credibility of her claims. The prenuptial agreement provisions that Marcus presented to the court included specific language requiring independent forensic examination of any spouse claiming financial abuse, with automatic dismissal of allegations if such examination was refused. The prenuptial agreement was designed to prevent false abuse allegations from being used to circumvent property protection provisions, Marcus explained. Mrs. Mitchell agreed to these requirements when she signed the contract 8 years ago. Judge Hartley reviewed the prenuptial agreement language while examining the comprehensive evidence that contradicted Sarah's abuse allegations. The financial records presented show collaborative decision-making and equal account access, Judge Hartley noted. The social media evidence appears inconsistent with claims of isolation and intimidation. The text message records between Sarah and her family members were particularly damaging to her credibility, showing normal marital communications with no mentions of abuse or controlling behavior until immediately before filing the restraining order. Mrs. Mitchell's communications with her sister show routine marital discussions with no indications of the systematic abuse she has alleged, Judge Hartley observed. Sarah's attorney attempted to argue that the comprehensive documentation actually proved controlling behavior rather than contradicting abuse allegations. Your Honor, the extensive record-keeping and monitoring systems that Mr. Mitchell maintained demonstrate exactly the kind of controlling behavior that created the abusive environment, Torres argued. But this strategy backfired when Marcus presented evidence that Sarah had participated voluntarily in the financial planning and documentation systems throughout their marriage. Mrs. Mitchell co-signed on all financial documents, participated in annual planning meetings, and regularly accessed all account information, Marcus demonstrated. Her current characterization of collaborative financial management as controlling behavior contradicts her own documented participation. The most damaging evidence was Sarah's secret apartment lease and attorney consultations that proved she had been planning divorce while maintaining the facade of a committed marriage. Mrs. Mitchell signed an apartment lease 4 months before claiming she needed emergency protection, Marcus presented. She consulted with multiple divorce attorneys over 18 months while continuing normal marital activities. Judge Hartley reviewed the apartment lease documents and attorney consultation records while noting the timeline inconsistencies with Sarah's emergency protection claims. The evidence suggests systematic planning rather than emergency response to abusive behavior, Judge Hartley observed. Sarah's testimony during the dismissal hearing revealed additional inconsistencies that undermined her credibility and exposed the fabricated nature of her abuse allegations. "I had to plan secretly because Lawrence monitored everything I did," Sarah claimed when asked about the apartment lease timeline. But Marcus immediately presented social media posts from the same period showing Sarah's normal activities and positive comments about our relationship. Mrs. Mitchell posted 47 social media updates during the period she claimed she was secretly planning escape from abuse, Marcus demonstrated. Her posts consistently expressed appreciation for their lifestyle and relationship. The contradiction between Sarah's testimony and her documented activities was obvious and damaging to her credibility with Judge Hartley. Mrs. Mitchell's social media activities appear inconsistent with her testimony about systematic abuse and controlled behavior, Judge Hartley noted. The comprehensive financial auditing that the prenuptial agreement required was particularly effective in exposing the fraudulent nature of Sarah's abuse allegations. The forensic accounting review shows that Mrs. Mitchell had equal access to all accounts and made independent financial decisions throughout the marriage, Marcus presented. Her claims about financial control are contradicted by her own documented activities. Sarah's attorney made final arguments, attempting to characterize the systematic evidence as additional proof of controlling behavior rather than contradictory evidence about abuse allegations. Your Honor, the extensive documentation and monitoring represent exactly the kind of intimidating oversight that created the abusive environment Mrs. Mitchell experienced, Torres argued. But Judge Hartley had reviewed sufficient evidence to recognize the fabricated nature of Sarah's allegations and the strategic timing of her asset seizure activities. The court finds that the evidence presented contradicts the allegations made in the original restraining order petition, Judge Hartley ruled. The systematic planning and documentation suggest strategic manipulation rather than emergency response to abusive behavior. The restraining order was dismissed immediately, with Judge Hartley ordering that Sarah comply with the prenuptial agreement's asset restoration provisions before any divorce proceedings could continue. Mrs. Mitchell must restore all transferred assets to joint accounts pending resolution of property division issues, Judge Hartley ordered. The unauthorized transfers violated explicit prenuptial agreement provisions that require immediate restitution. Sarah's strategy to exploit abuse allegations for financial advantage had collapsed completely when confronted with systematic documentation and sophisticated legal preparation that exposed every aspect of her deception. Have you ever witnessed a carefully planned manipulation strategy completely destroyed by thorough documentation and strategic legal thinking? Sometimes comprehensive preparation becomes the most effective defense against sophisticated attempts to exploit legal protections designed for genuine victims. The immediate aftermath of Judge Hartley's restraining order dismissal triggered a cascade of legal consequences that exposed the full scope of Sarah's fraudulent scheme while activating the prenuptial agreement's penalty provisions for attempted asset manipulation. Her attorney, Rebecca Torres, was facing potential professional sanctions for implementing a strategy based on false allegations and apparent failure to review contractual obligations before proceeding with asset seizure. The court's dismissal of the restraining order triggers automatic penalty clauses in the prenuptial agreement, Marcus Caldwell explained, as we reviewed the immediate legal implications. Sarah is now required to restore the full $290,000 plus interest and legal fees within 30 days, or face criminal referral for violation of court orders. The prenuptial agreement's fraud protection provisions had been designed specifically to prevent abuse allegations from being used to circumvent property protection agreements, with escalating penalties for systematic deception during marriage dissolution. The contract includes treble damages for attempted financial fraud through false abuse allegations, Marcus noted. Sarah's violations could result in penalties exceeding $400,000 beyond the basic asset restoration requirements. But Sarah's legal problems extended beyond civil penalties to potential criminal liability for unauthorized access to joint accounts and systematic deception during court proceedings. Sarah's attorney consultation charges show planning that predates her abuse allegations by over a year, I documented. The evidence suggests conspiracy to commit fraud rather than legitimate response to marital problems. The King County Prosecutor's Office had been notified about potential criminal charges related to Sarah's unauthorized asset transfers and false statements during restraining order proceedings. False allegations in court proceedings constitute perjury, while unauthorized account access during marriage dissolution can be prosecuted as theft, explained Prosecutor Jennifer Hayes. The systematic nature of Mrs. Mitchell's activities suggests multiple criminal violations. Sarah's attempt to characterize my financial documentation as controlling behavior had backfired by demonstrating the comprehensive evidence that exposed her systematic deception and premeditated asset theft. Mrs. Mitchell's characterization of collaborative financial planning as abuse actually provided evidence of her sophisticated understanding of our asset structure, Marcus observed. Her knowledge of account details proves she participated voluntarily in financial management rather than being excluded from decision-making. The social media evidence that contradicted Sarah's abuse allegations was also creating professional liability for her attorney, who had apparently never investigated the credibility of her client's claims before implementing aggressive legal strategies. Torres's failure to verify Mrs. Mitchell's allegations before filing false abuse claims could result in state bar sanctions for frivolous litigation and client fraud, Marcus noted. The comprehensive evidence contradicting her client's testimony suggests inadequate case preparation. Rebecca Torres was attempting to negotiate settlement agreements that would minimize her professional exposure while avoiding criminal prosecution for her client's fraudulent activities. Torres is offering immediate asset restoration in exchange for agreement not to pursue criminal charges, Marcus reported. She's recognizing that the evidence against her client is overwhelming and indefensible. But the prenuptial agreement's provisions required full penalty enforcement to prevent future attempts at financial manipulation through false allegations. The contract's fraud protection clauses were designed to create deterrent effects, Marcus explained. Accepting reduced penalties would undermine the agreement's protective purpose and encourage similar manipulation attempts. Meanwhile, I was preparing to return to our shared residence and resume normal financial management while Sarah faced the consequences of her failed manipulation strategy. The restraining order dismissal restores your access to the marital residence and all joint accounts, Marcus noted. Sarah's attempt to exclude you from shared property has been completely reversed. The financial account restoration process was proceeding through court-supervised procedures that would ensure complete asset recovery while documenting Sarah's violations for potential criminal prosecution. All transferred funds must be returned to joint accounts within 30 days, Judge Hartley had ordered. Failure to comply will result in contempt of court charges and automatic criminal referral. But the most significant outcome was the professional recognition I was receiving for systematic documentation and legal preparation that had defeated sophisticated manipulation designed to exploit domestic abuse protections. Lawrence's case demonstrates how comprehensive record-keeping and strategic legal thinking can protect against false allegations, observed family law attorney David Kim. His documentation methods should be adopted by anyone facing potential relationship dissolution. The Microsoft legal team that had drafted our prenuptial agreement was requesting permission to use our case as training material for other executives who needed asset protection from strategic manipulation during divorce proceedings. Mitchell's experience proves that sophisticated prenuptial agreements, combined with systematic documentation, provide comprehensive protection against false abuse allegations, noted Microsoft General Counsel Lisa Thompson. The professional speaking opportunities that resulted from our legal victory were generating additional income while establishing my reputation as an expert in asset protection and documentation strategies. Mitchell's systematic approach to evidence compilation and legal preparation demonstrates how technical professionals can protect themselves from sophisticated manipulation, observed conference organizer Robert Martinez. Sarah's failed manipulation strategy had inadvertently created opportunities for professional recognition and enhanced security that exceeded anything our marriage had provided. Sarah's attempt to destroy my financial security ultimately strengthened my asset protection and legal knowledge, I reflected during industry presentations. The comprehensive legal victory was providing validation for systematic approaches to relationship management and financial protection that many professionals never consider necessary until crisis situations arise. Thorough documentation and strategic legal preparation transform potential disasters into professional opportunities, I noted during asset protection seminars. Sarah's fraudulent abuse allegations had collapsed completely when confronted with comprehensive evidence and sophisticated legal strategy, while her attorney faced professional sanctions for implementing manipulation strategies without adequate case preparation. The prenuptial agreement's penalty provisions were ensuring complete asset recovery, plus additional compensation for the professional and emotional costs of defending against false allegations designed to exploit legal protections intended for genuine abuse victims. Have you ever discovered that systematic documentation and strategic legal thinking could completely reverse someone's attempt to exploit your professional success through false victimization? Sometimes comprehensive preparation becomes the foundation for exposing sophisticated manipulation while protecting the assets that represent decades of career achievement. The complete financial recovery achieved through the prenuptial agreement's fraud protection provisions exceeded my initial expectations and demonstrated how strategic legal preparation could transform attempted manipulation into enhanced asset security and professional recognition. Sarah's obligation to restore the $290,000 plus treble damages, legal fees and penalty interest resulted in total recovery of $485,000 while she faced potential criminal prosecution for systematic deception. The prenuptial agreement's fraud protection clauses have generated recovery that exceeds the original theft by 67%, Marcus Caldwell calculated during our final settlement review. Sarah's violations triggered penalty provisions that were designed to create deterrent effects and compensate for professional disruption. The treble damage provisions reflected the sophisticated legal drafting that Microsoft's corporate counsel had included to prevent abuse allegations from being used to circumvent property protection agreements during executive divorce proceedings. Corporate executives face unique vulnerabilities to strategic manipulation during relationship dissolution, explained Microsoft General Counsel Lisa Thompson. Mitchell's case demonstrates how comprehensive prenuptial agreements can provide complete protection against false allegations designed to access protected assets. But beyond financial recovery, the legal victory had created professional opportunities in asset protection consulting and documentation strategy that were generating additional income streams. Lawrence's systematic approach to evidence compilation and legal strategy has attracted attention from executives who need similar protection, noted family law specialist David Kim. His methods are being adopted by technology professionals across multiple industries. The speaking opportunities at legal and business conferences were providing supplemental income while establishing my reputation as an expert in systematic documentation and strategic legal thinking. Mitchell's experience demonstrates that technical professionals can apply systematic analysis to relationship management and legal protection, observed conference organizer Patricia Newman. His documentation methods prevent false allegations while providing comprehensive evidence for legal proceedings. Sarah's criminal exposure was being addressed through plea negotiations that required complete asset restoration, community service, and restitution for legal costs associated with defending against her false allegations. Mrs. Mitchell faces potential charges for perjury, unauthorized account access, and conspiracy to commit fraud, prosecutor Jennifer Hayes explained. The plea agreement requires admission of systematic deception and agreement to testify truthfully in any related proceedings. Rebecca Torres, Sarah's former attorney, was facing state bar disciplinary proceedings for inadequate case preparation and implementation of litigation strategies based on false client allegations. Torres's failure to investigate her client's credibility before filing abuse allegations violated professional responsibility standards, noted bar investigator Thomas Rodriguez. The comprehensive evidence contradicting her client's testimony suggests either negligent preparation or knowing participation in fraud. The professional sanctions against Torres were creating industry attention to the importance of verification and due diligence before implementing aggressive divorce strategies based on abuse allegations. The Torres sanctions demonstrate that attorneys cannot rely solely on client representations without independent verification, observed legal ethics specialist Sarah Martinez. False allegations create professional liability that extends beyond client relationships. Meanwhile, I had returned to our shared residence and was implementing enhanced security and documentation systems that would prevent future manipulation attempts while providing comprehensive protection for accumulated assets. The experience taught me that systematic documentation must extend beyond financial records to include all aspects of relationship management, I reflected during asset protection presentations. The downtown Seattle condominium I purchased, with a portion of the recovery funds, provided independent housing that eliminated shared property vulnerabilities while offering investment appreciation and tax advantages. Independent property ownership reduces manipulation opportunities while providing asset diversification, I explained during financial planning seminars. The Microsoft stock options I had accelerated through the recovery funds were generating additional wealth accumulation that exceeded what would have been possible through normal employment compensation alone. Strategic legal victory created investment opportunities that transformed attempted theft into enhanced financial security, I noted during professional development presentations. The consulting services I had developed in systematic documentation and asset protection were attracting clients from technology, finance, and healthcare industries who needed comprehensive relationship management strategies. Mitchell's methods provide systematic protection against manipulation while maintaining professional focus and career development, noted client testimonials. But the most meaningful outcome was the validation of systematic thinking and strategic preparation as effective tools for professional protection and life management. Sarah's manipulation attempt taught me that relationship management requires the same analytical approach and strategic planning that I apply to technology architecture, I observed during industry interviews. The comprehensive legal victory had demonstrated that professional skills in analysis, documentation, and strategic thinking provide effective protection against personal manipulation and financial exploitation. Technical professionals often assume that personal relationships don't require the same systematic approach they use for career success, I noted during professional development workshops. Sarah's case proves that systematic thinking is essential for comprehensive life management. The recovery process had also created enhanced professional relationships with legal specialists, financial advisors, and asset protection experts who could provide ongoing consultation and strategic guidance. Building professional networks in legal and financial protection creates resources that prevent manipulation while supporting career advancement, I explained during networking presentations. Sarah's failed manipulation strategy had inadvertently created opportunities for professional growth, enhanced financial security, and systematic approaches to life management that exceeded anything our marriage had provided. Sometimes the most sophisticated betrayal creates catalysts for professional development and systematic improvement that wouldn't have occurred without the crisis, I reflected during personal development seminars. The prenuptial agreement that had protected my assets was also serving as a model for other technology professionals who needed similar protection against strategic manipulation during relationship dissolution. Comprehensive legal preparation and systematic documentation provide protection that most people never realize they need until manipulation attempts occur, I noted during asset protection workshops. Sarah's attempt to exploit legal protections designed for genuine abuse victims had ultimately strengthened rather than weakened my financial security while creating professional opportunities that demonstrated the value of systematic thinking and strategic preparation. Have you ever discovered that systematic preparation and strategic legal thinking could transform attempted manipulation into opportunities for professional growth and enhanced security? Sometimes, comprehensive documentation becomes the foundation for exposing sophisticated deception while building stronger protection for future success. Standing in my new downtown Seattle condominium, 18 months after Sarah's failed manipulation attempt, I reflected on how her systematic deception and asset theft had inadvertently created opportunities for professional growth, enhanced financial security, and systematic approaches to life management that exceeded anything our marriage had provided. The $485,000 recovery, through prenuptial agreement penalties, had been invested in technology stocks and real estate that were generating annual returns of $58,000, while my consulting practice in asset protection and documentation strategy was providing additional income of $85,000 annually. The 2,400 square foot condominium offered panoramic views of Elliott Bay and the Olympic Mountains, with modern amenities and building security that provided both luxury and privacy that I had never experienced during marriage. The property's appreciation potential and tax advantages created long-term wealth accumulation that complemented my Microsoft stock options and retirement planning. Living independently with comprehensive asset protection provides security and peace of mind that shared property arrangements can't guarantee, I reflected during asset protection seminars that had become regular speaking engagements. The consulting services I had developed were attracting technology executives, medical professionals, and business owners who needed systematic documentation and legal preparation strategies to protect accumulated wealth from potential manipulation during relationship dissolution. Lawrence's experience demonstrates that professional success creates vulnerabilities that require systematic protection through comprehensive legal preparation, noted client testimonial from Microsoft Senior Director Patricia Chambers. The systematic documentation methods I had refined through my experience with Sarah were being adopted by professionals across multiple industries who recognized the importance of evidence compilation and strategic legal thinking. Mitchell's documentation protocols provide comprehensive protection while maintaining professional focus and productivity, observed financial planning consultant David Martinez. But the most meaningful outcome was the validation of systematic thinking and analytical approaches as effective tools for comprehensive life management beyond just career success. Sarah's attempted manipulation taught me that personal relationships require the same strategic analysis and systematic preparation that I use for technology architecture, I explained during professional development presentations. The Microsoft recognition I had received for asset protection expertise was creating internal consulting opportunities and enhanced stock option allocations that exceeded normal technology career advancement. Mitchell's legal experience provides valuable expertise for executive protection and strategic planning, noted Microsoft General Counsel Lisa Thompson. His methods are being incorporated into executive training programs. Sarah's criminal plea agreement had concluded with community service, restitution payments, and permanent restrictions on her ability to file false legal allegations, ensuring that her manipulation strategy would never be repeated. Mrs. Mitchell's plea agreement includes admission that her abuse allegations were fabricated for financial advantage, prosecutor Jennifer Hayes had announced. The case demonstrates that false allegations carry serious criminal consequences. Rebecca Torres, Sarah's former attorney, had received state bar sanctions, including suspension and mandatory professional responsibility training, that sent clear messages about the consequences of implementing litigation strategies based on unverified client allegations. The Torres sanctions emphasize attorney responsibility for case verification and ethical representation, noted Bar Disciplinary Counsel Thomas Rodriguez. False allegations create professional liability that cannot be avoided through client reliance. The professional recognition I was receiving through industry publications and conference presentations had established my reputation as an expert in systematic protection and strategic legal thinking for technology professionals. Mitchell's transformation from manipulation victim to asset protection expert demonstrates how systematic thinking can convert professional challenges into competitive advantages, noted Technology Executive magazine. The enhanced Microsoft career opportunities that resulted from my legal expertise were providing accelerated advancement and increased compensation that exceeded normal technology career trajectories. Lawrence's legal experience and systematic approach to problem solving create unique value for enterprise architecture and strategic planning, noted my Microsoft director Jennifer Adams. The financial independence achieved through asset recovery and investment returns was providing options for career flexibility and entrepreneurial opportunities that would have been impossible without the legal victory over Sarah's manipulation attempt. Comprehensive asset protection creates professional freedom and strategic options that employment alone cannot provide, I observed during financial independence presentations. The documentation systems I had developed were being licensed to law firms and financial advisors who needed systematic evidence compilation methods for high asset divorce and asset protection cases. Mitchell's documentation protocols have become industry standards for asset protection and evidence preservation, noted family law specialist Robert Kim. Looking back on Sarah's systematic betrayal and attempted financial theft, I realized that her manipulation had inadvertently created opportunities for professional growth, enhanced security, and systematic life management that wouldn't have been possible within our marriage relationship. Sometimes the most sophisticated personal betrayal becomes the catalyst for professional development and systematic improvement that exceeds anything the original relationship could have provided, I reflected during personal development workshops. The prenuptial agreement that had protected my assets was serving as a model for other technology professionals who needed comprehensive protection against strategic manipulation during relationship changes. Strategic legal preparation and systematic documentation provide protection that most professionals never realize they need until manipulation attempts occur, I noted during asset protection conferences. Sarah's attempt to exploit domestic abuse protections for financial advantage had ultimately strengthened rather than weakened my professional position, while creating expertise and opportunities that transformed attempted theft into enhanced success. Professional systems thinking and comprehensive preparation create resilience against personal manipulation while building foundations for expanded success, I observed during strategic planning presentations. The systematic approach to evidence compilation and legal strategy that had defeated Sarah's manipulation was proving equally effective for client protection and business development in my consulting practice. Analytical skills and systematic thinking provide comprehensive life management capabilities that extend far beyond technology career success, I noted during professional development seminars. The experience had demonstrated that professional competence in analysis, documentation, and strategic planning could provide effective protection against sophisticated personal manipulation while creating opportunities for enhanced financial security and career advancement. Sarah's failed attempt to steal my accumulated wealth had inadvertently provided the foundation for building systematic protection, professional expertise, and financial independence that exceeded anything our marriage relationship could have achieved. The people who attempt to exploit others' professional success through elaborate manipulation sometimes end up creating opportunities for their targets to achieve greater security and success through systematic response and strategic legal thinking. Professional skills in systematic analysis and strategic preparation prove just as valuable for personal protection and life management as they are for career advancement and technology solutions. Have you discovered that professional systems thinking and comprehensive documentation can provide effective protection against personal manipulation while creating opportunities for enhanced success? Sometimes sophisticated betrayal becomes the foundation for building systematic protection and expanded professional opportunities. If this story of systematic documentation and strategic legal thinking resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button to Revenge Tales with Luke. Share your experiences with relationship manipulation and professional protection in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who's facing similar challenges with personal betrayal and asset protection. See you in our next story.